In 1994, a film called Police Academy, Mission to Moscow, opened in North American theaters. It made $126,000, not $126 million, not $12 million, but $126,000 on 12 screens. It disappeared in weeks. Nobody looking at Police Academy in 1984 would have predicted that ending, because 10 years earlier, the first film made $81 million against a $4.5 million budget. $36 back for every dollar spent. That is not a hit. That is a phenomenon. So the real question is not whether Police Academy failed. The question is what happened between those two numbers. What goes wrong inside a franchise so completely that the same brand goes from $81 million to $126,000 in a single decade? The obvious answer writes itself. They made too many sequels. Audiences got bored. The well ran dry. Sounds right. And for a while, if you look at the box office, it even looks right. Police Academy. 2, $55 million. Police Academy. 3, $43 million. Police Academy. 4, $28 million. Steady decline. Case closed. Except it is not that simple, because audiences do not just get bored of things they love. They stop showing up when something changes. So the real question is not how many sequels there were. The question is what changed inside them. And when you start looking for that, the story gets more complicated. Here is the first suspect. Hugh Wilson directed the original film. He left after one film. At first glance, that should not matter. The cast stayed. The budget stayed. Warner Brothers stayed. The same characters, the same setting, the same basic premise. So why did everything slowly start falling apart? Before we get into that, subscribe if you have not already. Thank you. Wilson's replacement for the second and third films was Jerry Paris. Jim Drake took the fourth. Both kept everything visible. The sound effects, the catchphrases, the recurring characters. Everything that made Police Academy look like Police Academy was still there. So if the director leaving did not obviously break anything, maybe the problem was somewhere else. If it wasn't the director, maybe it was the star. Steve Guttenberg left after the fourth film. He played Kerry Mahoney, the reluctant rebel at the center of every story. His departure felt significant. It felt like the answer. Take away the main character. Franchise collapses. Simple, but look at the timeline more carefully. Police Academy 3 made $43 million. Police Academy 4 made $28 million, both with Guttenberg. The decline was already happening before he walked out the door. So was Guttenberg really the reason the franchise fell apart? Or did he just leave a ship that was already sinking? It sounds convincing. But the timeline says something more interesting. Police Academy 5, without Guttenberg, $19 million. Police Academy 6, $11 million. His absence made things worse, but it did not cause the problem. The problem was already there, which means the investigation is not finished. At this point, it looked like the mystery was solved. The director left. The star left. Two obvious suspects. Everything seemed to fit, except it was not that. Because both of those explanations point at people who left. And the real question is what the people who stayed were actually doing. Wilson had built the original film around a specific kind of comedy. The premise was not really about incompetent cops. It was about a group of people the system had written off, placed inside an institution designed to reject them, somehow surviving through stubbornness and loyalty. The absurdity came from that collision. Every character existed to produce a specific kind of friction against the institution. Michael Winslow's sound effects worked not because they were impressive, but because they were deployed at moments of real pressure, where his particular strangeness collided with the strangeness of the situation around him. Tackleberry's weapons obsession, Hightower's quiet menace, Harris's petty authoritarianism. Each of them was calibrated to produce comedy through collision. And underneath all of it, Guttenberg's Mahoney gave the audience someone to follow through that world. Not a hero, a reluctant participant, someone who made the audience feel like they were inside the institution rather than watching it from the outside. When Wilson left, the directors who followed kept the characters and lost the collisions. They placed the same people in new locations, Miami Beach, Moscow, and without the friction underneath, the comedy became mechanical. The audience could feel the difference between a joke that earned its punchline and a joke that assumed you would laugh because you had laughed before. Guttenberg, to his credit, seems to have understood this before anyone else did. He watched the numbers and made a quiet calculation. His leaving was not the cause of the decline. It was a diagnosis. The patient was already sick. He just stopped pretending otherwise. And the studio, watching the numbers drop with each film, did not look at the comedy. They looked at the brand. By the late 1980s, the franchise had stopped asking what story to tell and started asking how many formats the brand could occupy. The Police Academy animated series ran from 1988 to 1989, targeting children. A live-action TV series followed in 1997. Neither found an audience. And if you put those decisions alongside the box office decline, a pattern becomes visible that is more damaging than losing a director or losing a star. The people running Police Academy had confused the brand with the product. They thought the name was what audiences were paying for. It was not. There is one more layer underneath all of this, and it is the one that almost nobody mentions. The institution versus outsider premise that Police Academy ran on in 1984 had cultural energy at that specific moment. There was something genuinely satisfying about watching people the system had written off embarrass that same system. In 1984, that felt slightly subversive. Not dangerous, not political, just a small recognizable pleasure. The system fails. The Misfits win. By the late 1980s, audiences had seen enough versions of that structure to recognize it before the first joke landed. The surprise was gone. What had felt like rebellion in 1984 felt like product by 1989. The same joke, told the same way, by the same people, in a slightly different city. And here is the part that reframes everything. Police Academy did not just fail to outrun that exhaustion. It caused it. 6 films using the same structure, each slightly more hollow than the last, trained the audience to stop expecting anything from it. The franchise did not just decline. It accelerated its own irrelevance. So what actually happened to Police Academy? It was not the director leaving, though that mattered. It was not Guttenberg leaving, though that made it worse. It was not too many sequels, though the number did not help. And it was not simply a cultural moment expiring, though that was real too. It was all of those things operating together, in sequence, each one making the next one harder to recover from. It was that the people making the films kept the surface of the original and discarded the logic underneath. And then, when the audience started drifting, they responded by expanding the brand into more formats rather than asking why the original had worked. The reboot announcements keep coming. New Line Cinema confirmed development in 2018. As of now, nothing has materialized. That is not a coincidence, because the people behind those announcements have not solved the original problem. They have the name. They do not have an argument for why this story needs to exist again. In 1984, Hugh Wilson had that argument. That was the difference, and it still is.